All right, well, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you all coming out to see us talk today. I'm hoping that in the course of this session, in the next 15 minutes, I have a lot to get through, but I'm hoping you at least take one thing home that you can use back in your office to help your social media strategy go forward. What I'm going to talk to you about is challenges that business have. And if you're here expecting me to talk and badmouth some big brands and the way they've messed stuff up in social media, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to talk about is the back-end issues that a lot of companies face in hopes that everybody here can learn from their mistakes. One of the great things about working with a lot of big companies is I get to see them spend a lot of money to screw a lot of things up pretty royally. So I'm hoping I can share that with you, so even if you're a small company, if you're a mid-sized company, you can take some of that away and use it in what you're doing with your social strategy. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm the guy on the left, not the one on the right. That little guy on the right is my son Frankie. 3 years old on July 4th. He's awesome. This is my ooh slide, right? That's when all the ladies in the audience go, oh, he's so cute. I put that up for a reason. Number one, because if I don't say anything that you guys like today, at the very least, you'll walk away going, well, he was the guy with the cute kid. The other reason is Frankie is actually pretty integral to a story I'm going to tell you about social media in a minute. So keep his picture in the back of your head. The most important thing about all that junk on the left there, which is about me, is that I'm different than a lot of other social media guys that you hear from. I'm different because I started putting social media in business before I did it for myself. So I always tried to see what the background was, how I was getting leads, how I was getting sales through social media. And then I developed my own blog and my own Twitter account and started to do stuff that way. So it's kind of a reverse career path than what you hear from a lot of social media people out there or gurus out there in the space. That's the most important thing to take away from it. As Steve mentioned, I run sales and marketing at a company called Awareness. Awareness provides a software package that allows organizations, small, medium, and large, to tie all their social media activities together in one central place. You can publish out, you can get all the comments that are coming back in, get a good understanding of who your audience is, and figure out where you're generating revenue from all your social media outlets. So as we talk about monetization, this is pretty important for a lot of the companies we work with. Anybody here today, if you're interested in getting a demo of it, learning a little bit more about it, you can email me. My email address is mlewis@awarenessnetworks.com. I'd love to hear from you. But this session really isn't about awareness, it's about social media. So I want to start off sharing a personal story with you. Don't worry, I'm not going to get too intimate. It's just a basic personal story. I spend a lot of time on the road. I spend a lot of time traveling. And for some reason, I always end up flying Delta Airlines. I promise they're not a customer. I'm not a big fan of Delta. It's not a brand loyalty story I'm going to share with you. It just so happens that Delta's planes go to where I need to go most of the time. Boston's a hub for them. The challenge for me is I spend 2 to 3 weeks of a month on the road. And that's really tough because I miss this guy all the time. He's 3 years old now. He's starting to talk. He's starting to say, I miss you, Daddy, stuff like that. It's really difficult for me. So I try to get home as early as I can. About a year ago, I was at a conference down in Tampa, Florida called Social Fresh. If you ever get a chance to go to a Social Fresh conference, I can't recommend it enough. It's a lot of case studies and user experiences and stuff like that. Really great conference. I highly recommend you guys go to it. But I was down there. I did my session. I got up on stage, talked for a little bit. Actually got to hang out for a minute and do some networking with some folks after. And I ask you to ignore those pictures of me with beers in my hand, because I left the networking session and started to drive to the airport. The story isn't going where you think it's going. I was actually driving about halfway to Tampa International Airport. It's a true story. And all of a sudden, a light dawned over my head. I was shocked. I realized that I was actually going to the airport on the wrong day. Now, if you travel a lot, that's not that far-fetched. You have a lot of schedules in your head. You kind of forget where you are sometimes. I was driving back, and I did what anybody would do, which is call Delta. And I got this very nice gentleman on the phone. I don't know if this is him or not, but this is a good enough picture for him. Got a very nice gentleman on the phone. He said, look, I can get you on tonight's flight, no problem. The challenge is, all our computer systems are down. It's going to take about a half hour. Are you okay with that? I said, no worries, man. If you can get me on tonight's flight, I'm good as gold. So we made some small talk. He started chatting me up a little bit, asked me questions about who I am, why I'm going back. I didn't think much of it at all. He said, I got you booked on the flight. I got to Tampa Airport, went up to the Delta kiosk, checked in, got on my plane, and just as the doors of the plane were closing, when they were telling you to put away your electronic devices, I sent out a tweet. Now, at this point, I have no idea if Delta even has a Twitter account. I have no idea if they even know what Twitter is. But I wrote, on an @Delta flight leaving Tampa, can't wait to get home. Side note, @Delta customer service rocks. I said it before, and I continue to be impressed. Doors of the plane closed, flew back up to Boston, got to see Frankie before he went to bed, and I went to bed pretty happy. I didn't think about the tweet at all. Didn't think about that tweet at all until I got in the next day. When I got in the next day, I found a tweet back from Delta Blog. Notice it's different than @Delta, but Delta Blog. And it said, thanks for your comment. We hope you had a great trip home to that new baby. And I thought, wow, how cool is that? This is great. They connected with me in a way I'd never been connected with a large airline before in my life. They connected with me on a personal basis, something that they had never, ever been able to accomplish before, but they did that. But then I started to think about it a little more, and the creepiness factor of what had just happened set in, because I started to realize that they said to that new baby. And I was kind of surprised, because how the heck did they know that I had a new baby? So let me tell you what I thought happened in my head. I knew, first of all, it had to do something to do with this guy. Figure it was this guy that had something to do with it. But let me tell you a little bit about what I thought had happened. See, I thought I called Delta, got this great guy on the phone, and as I was talking to him, he pulled up his CRM system, which in my head was Salesforce.com. It might have been something else. I have no idea what airlines use. And as I was typing away, as he was talking to me, he was typing away, started putting in notes, just talked to Mike, he can't wait to get home, he has a son at home, that kind of thing. When I got on the flight, I sent out my tweet. As the tweet went out, all of a sudden alerts go off all over Delta. In fact, I'm pretty sure in my head at this moment, the CEO was even notified that I had sent out a tweet, right? So at this point, they get this alert that Boston Mike had said something out. They immediately send this response back, and life is just grand. Being the absolute social media geek that I am, when I got that tweet and I started to think about this in my head, I had to call Delta. So I called Delta, and I got this very nice woman by the name of Rachel on the phone. Really nice lady. World's largest airline, one person running their social media initiative across their entire company. World's largest airline, one person. Her name's Rachel. And I told her what I thought happened. And after she stopped laughing, she said, "You couldn't be farther from the truth. That's not even remotely close to what happened." What actually happened was, the day that I was flying back from Tampa was a day of those really severe blizzards in the Northeast. I don't know if you guys remember it, but Washington, D.C. got like 3 feet of snow. New York had a bunch of snow. It was really bad. Boston didn't get touched so much. But she said, I was watching the Twitter stream, and the words that people were using were so horrendous. I was getting such bad tweets. All of a sudden, I saw your nice tweet come up because people were trapped all over the country because they couldn't fly. And she said, I clicked through to your profile, went to your Facebook page, saw that you had a son that's probably around the same age as my daughter, so I knew that had to be why you were going home. So I sent that tweet back to you. So honestly, not as exciting of a story once you hear what really happened, but an important story nonetheless. Because what it shows is what social media is all about. It gives us as brand owners or company owners or small business owners, people that work at big brands, the ability to connect with people on an individual one-to-one basis. Now this used to happen all the time. If you remember those days before Expedia and Priceline and Travelocity and things like that where we could just go and book stuff, it used to happen all the time, and then the internet came along. And that kind of changed. Made it really difficult because now you're dealing with a computer screen instead of someone individually. Before we used to go into a travel agent's office, right? Shake their hands, and tell us where we want to go, even if it was a corporate travel agent or whatever. But social media gives you the ability to connect with people in a way that you were never able to connect with before. One-to-one on their time through the channel that they want to. In fact, Time Magazine just a few years ago did something unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented. They named you, and when I say you, I mean everybody on the panel, everybody in this audience, everybody in this trade show, everybody in the world, Person of the Year. Because for the first time in human history, we had more control than the brands. What that means is we could actually communicate effectively. We could publish content out in a way that's cost effectively, in a way that brands couldn't do anymore. So we actually had the brands kind of on the defensive there, and we still do. The way we communicate is completely evolved. I'm going to take that a step further. Social media represents the largest shift in communications in human history. Now, I just saw a bunch of people shake their heads, no way. They don't believe me. Well, I'm going to prove it to you in just a minute, but before I do, let me just play one video real quick for you. And this is my friend Matt. Sorry, I forgot to plug this in. Hopefully. For time purposes, I'm going to fast forward through that. But I'm going to tell you the quick story of it. That's a guy named Matt. It's a true story. He went on vacation with one of his friends in college, and he started doing that goofy dance that you saw him doing at the beginning. He had maybe 1 or 2 many drinks the night before or whatever. Started dancing. His friend gets back, puts it on YouTube. Video lays dormant for about 6 months. Absolutely nothing happens to it. All of a sudden, the right influencers catch on to it. They love watching this guy dance. It goes hyper, super crazy viral, through the roof. So much so that he starts getting emails from people all over the world saying, if you're in Vegas, if you're in Dublin, if you're in Sydney, if you're in Singapore, if you're wherever, let us know. Would love to come out and dance with you. Stride Gum calls Matt and says, look, we want to finance a trip for you to go around the world, and we're going to give you an obscene amount of money to do it, as long as you let us put our logo at the end of that video. So if you want to check the whole thing, check Where the Heck is Matt, YouTube it. You can see the entire video, and at the end of it, you'll see Stride Gum with their logo at the bottom of it. The only point I want to make of that story is 30 years ago, my father never had that same opportunity. Not because he's a bad dancer, and believe me, my dad is a bad dancer, I've seen him dance, but because he couldn't have gone in to Stride Gum or ABC or NBC and said, look, I got this great idea for a promotional thing, send me around the world, I'm going to dance with people. It would have laughed him out of there. Matt was able to make money, and a lot of people are able to make money by doing stuff that gets viral, and businesses are able to do it. Because right now we're in the middle of a revolution. It's actually the biggest evolution that we've ever been through, and the internet has fueled it. Let me just tell you a little bit about the internet and why that's important before I go forward. This is actually a picture of the internet. You can see there are different colored connections for the nodes and how strong it is in different areas. What I love about this picture, it looks kind of like the universe, doesn't it? You kind of, I don't know, like a picture that you'd see of like the stars and stuff. There's a blog post buried in there somewhere, I don't know what it is. But what makes this different than any other communication vehicle than we've ever had is one, it's a many-to-many pattern. What I mean by that is, for the first time in history, hundreds, thousands, millions of people, if you're on Facebook, can connect and have conversations in a way that we were never able to do before, right? Not when you had the telephone, not when you had the telegraph, not when we started broadcasting messages over the TV. It's the first time ever we've been able to do that. Through this one channel, in fact, any other type of media can be carried, whether it's video, audio, text, whatever it is, photos, you can carry this through this one channel. It's the first time ever we've had one channel that can support all these different types of media. The fourth thing is, what the internet's allowed, is it's made the audience, us, the content producers. First time in history that's ever happened that people like Matt can produce a video that can go crazy viral and he can actually make money off of it in a way that only before you had to have a ton of money to be able to pull it off. And finally, the audience itself, I mean us as the audience, not just the content producers, but us as the audience, we're more into dialogue than we are broadcasting. So for the first time, and if you think about how you fast forward TiVo now through commercials and that kind of stuff, we don't want to be broadcast to. We want a dialogue. We want to get what we want to get, and we want to get it the way we want to get it. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute, because what's really important about this is all these different things that have gone on with the internet have created 5 common challenges that most businesses face as they start to get up in social media. And the first one is an inability to scale. For those of you that want to learn more about social media, and you're on Twitter, first of all, if you aren't on Twitter, you should be on Twitter. If not, get a Twitter account and follow Jeremiah Oyang. His Twitter address is @JOWYANG. Jeremiah is an analyst. He works at a company called Altimeter Group, does a great job feeding information to folks who want to learn more about social media. But when he talks about an inability to scale, he talks about it in 2 dimensions. The first is people. Anytime you talk to someone about how they're going to scale their social media strategy, the first thing they say is, we're going to hire more people. I'm going to throw more bodies at it. That's really ineffective. That's really inefficient, and it's not cost effective at all. Right? There's got to be better ways to do that behind the scenes. The second thing he talks about is channels. And what he means by channels is there's a whole bunch of places that we want to publish content to and interact with. The challenge is things like Google+, Foursquare, Gowalla, all these other things pop up, and now it's up to us to learn them and incorporate them into our overall social media strategy. And let me tell you real quick what I mean by that. I was out at a company on the West Coast who talked to me about, who was looking to get some help on what they were doing in social media. And they went through all the different things that they do. And the word they kept using to describe this strategy was passion. So we get this audience that's just passionate about everything. They love interacting with our videos. They love publishing pictures. They love putting content out there. They love engaging with us. They're very passionate. And I said, all right, well, what do you need me for? It sounds like everything's working. And they said, well, we spent so much time in those first 4 buckets, Facebook, Flickr, YouTube, and Twitter, that we have no time for that last fan page up on MySpace. In fact, in their words, not mine, we're going to close it down and say goodbye to 15,000 of our closest friends. Have no idea what the ROI on it is, didn't care about what the ROI on it is. All they knew is they didn't have the resources to commit to managing that one channel. It's a huge issue for business. As you start to grow in social media, start to think about ways that you can optimize and effectively manage multiple channels. There are software packages out there, a ton of them, depending on how big you are and how much you want to do, that can help you grow and start to do more in different applications. The second thing is security and scale. Security, I'm just going to give you a quick story about. Security, I'm sure we've all heard 100 stories about companies that have had their Twitter page or their Facebook page hacked in social media. It's a huge issue for organizations because typically sharing passwords is really difficult. If you ask a company how you share passwords, if I were to ask people in this room how you share passwords and you have more than one person using your Twitter account, chances are you tell me it's either by an Excel spreadsheet or by email, which is incredibly insecure. It's very difficult to manage passwords effectively if you're going to start doing stuff in social media. The second thing that brands struggle with is control. Let me give you an example of control. Let's say that we had 3 different groups that we're going to engage in social media. We give them access to our Twitter account, our Flickr page, all these different things, and they can comment. And they start doing that. but all of a sudden the tone is different from different people, and they respond to questions differently, and they're starting to say things that they shouldn't be saying on the corporate account. It becomes a huge challenge. Brands want to be able to control what's going on, so having policies in place is uber critical for you as you start your social media strategy if you don't already have one there. You want a great example of a company that does a really good job, go no further than Best Buy. Their 12 Force account. 12 Force is actually, looks like, if you were to read the stream, you would swear it's one person behind the scenes doing all the twittering on behalf of Best Buy, when in fact it's a huge group of individuals that are doing stuff on behalf of Best Buy. But because they have everything so nailed down, everybody knows exactly how to answer the questions the right way. They know the tone to use, they know the vernacular to use, they have the right policies there. It makes it seem like it's one person. It's really streamlined. A guy by the name of John Bernier at Best Buy actually put this together. Really smart guy, and he manages the group. If you're looking to get a great example of it, check them out. Just go to their Twitter feed and see what it is they're doing. It's a really great case study. Third thing is lack of buy-in and resources, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, simply because we kind of talked about it in the beginning. Delta Airlines, largest airline in the world, one person doing social media. Biggest challenge for them, and biggest challenge for most companies, is how do we figure out how to sell our social, how to sell the strategy, whether it's someone at a small business that wants to talk to the president or the owner about it, or a large company. How do we convince the up and ups, the execs, that social media is the right thing to be doing? The advice I always give to people is focus on the bottom line metrics. How many people are you converting to sales? How many customer service deflections are you making through social media? And are you able to track that? And if you aren't yet, you should have the systems in place to be able to figure out what's going on with all that stuff, because that's how you're going to get buy-in and more resources for your overall strategy. Because reporting is completely ad hoc, and that's point number 4. There are no standard metrics and measures for social media outside of the channels. So if you go to Facebook, you're looking at things like fans and followers and demographics and that kind of thing. It's different from channel to channel. People focus on that when really they need to start branching out and starting to tie those metrics together and tie it back to bottom line results. But because there's no standard core canned set of metrics that I can walk in and just hand you tomorrow, reporting's ad hoc from company to company. Everybody's tracking different stuff. Everybody's looking for different results, even though their objectives are pretty similar overall. Makes it really, really challenging for organizations to manage. And finally, the biggest thing is centralization, one of the big things. A lot of companies are starting to say, we want to manage social media through one department, whether it's marketing or customer service, or have a person or a tiger team responsible for social media. The problem with centralization is once you give people the free reins to go out and start doing stuff on their own, and then you try to tie them back in and bring them back in, it's next to impossible because you're changing behavior. So think about this stuff up front. Do we have one person who's going to be responsible for our strategy? Do we have multiple people? Does it fall into a division? Is there an executive owner who's going to be responsible for social media overall? All big questions you should start to ask as you start to develop your social media strategy if you haven't already. Great example of this is JetBlue. I love JetBlue's example. If you go anytime during the day, I just took it's actually a slide that was created by my friend Eric Wallman at eQualman on Twitter. But if you go to Twitter at any time and look at the JetBlue feed, you'll see that each tweet has different impact in different parts of the organization. Some for service, some for PR, some for sales. They do an unbelievable job at managing those tweets and routing them to the right people to respond. They do the same thing on their Facebook page. They do the same thing on their, believe it or not, their Flickr accounts. Any of the channels that they use, they do an unbelievable job at managing those so the right person is the one who's responding to any of the requests that come in. So all these challenges, these 5 challenges that I talked about and where we've gone, are all opportunities in disguise. And I want to tell you about some companies that are doing it really well, and I promise I'll keep this short because I know I'm getting close on time here. Like-minded shopping starts at, any ideas? I'll fill in the blanks for you. Levi's. I bet no one would have guessed that. Levi's has done an unbelievable job at focusing on one single thing that I think everybody in the room knows. If your friends refer something to you, whether it's a product or service, you're way more likely to buy it than if you watch a commercial, right? What they did is you go to Friend Store on Levi's.com, you click the connect button, and all of a sudden a dynamic page is created for you based on who your friends are on Facebook. It tells you what jeans they've liked. It tells you what jeans they're wearing. If they put it in, it tells you their review of the jeans, whatever it is. Sounds really simple, and it is. It's actually very inexpensive to build something like this using Facebook's APIs. You can get a developer to do this at a very low cost, and it's incredibly effective for them. And you can see I just logged into this one, and all of a sudden I got all my friends down the bottom here. These are the jeans that they've liked. These are the different reviews that they've given to the jeans. Really effective way at saying your friends are going to recommend what your next purchase is if you're on Levi's. Another great example is the power of influence. I call it the power of influence. And it's about the Harry Potter amusement park down at Universal Studios. Everybody familiar with that? Nod your head if you know about it. When it first came out, they went to the CMO of Universal and they said, all right, here's a $5 million budget to go out and market this new theme park that we haven't even built yet. We just want to let people know that it's coming. And she said, no, 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 no. I want to do this without a budget. In fact, all I need is 7 people. What she did is go out and have a midnight webinar for the top 7 most influential Harry Potter bloggers. Harry Potter, I don't know where that came from, but Harry Potter bloggers. You know what the results were? In 24 hours, over 350 million people knew about it, which they estimate is it's actually in 12 hours, 350 million people know about it. Cynthia Gordon, who was the CMO at the time, estimates that that's on par, if not better, than what they would have got for a media blitz of the same style that day, spending that $5 million. Unbelievable, because they were able to target the people who are most likely to influence people to know about this amusement park coming up, all through social media. All they did was go after the right bloggers. Finally, who's on Foursquare here? Raise your hand if you're using Foursquare. Raise your hand if you know what Foursquare is. Okay. For those of you that don't know what Foursquare is, it's a location-based service. It's based on a cell phone. I can do it now if I wanted to, but I go in, I log into Foursquare, and it tells me places in a general vicinity that I can check into. So for example, I checked into Mandalay Bay. First thing it does is come back and give me a couple things. It tells me anybody that I know that is at Mandalay Bay, so any of my friends that might be here if I wanted to connect with them. It tells me whoever else is checked in that I want to, so maybe I want to see who else is at Cosmoprofs and want to connect with Danielle or that kind of thing while I'm here. But it also gives me tips. So it also says, hey Mike, while you're at Mandalay Bay, be sure to check out the craps table downstairs or the pool. It's a really cool pool, that kind of thing. What's great about it is it's mostly based on physical locations, but History Channel did something really unique with it that really impressed me. They did a really good job. They actually went out, they had a TV series coming up called America, the Story of Us. It's a TV series. There's nothing physical about it. But what they did was they went to historically significant spots around the country and they put tips around that people would see when they check in. My favorite example, because I'm a Red Sox fan, is Fenway Park. When you check into Fenway Park, you get a tip that popped up that said, hey, since you're checked in at Fenway Park, be sure to try Fenway Frank. You're at the oldest ballpark in the country. By the way, check out America, the Story of Us this Sunday at 9 on the History Channel. So I did that for weeks, and it went really well. In fact, America, the Story of Us became the most watched TV show in the history of the History Channel, believe it or not. Now, I'm not going to attribute that all to the buzz that they got about Foursquare and what they did, but it was a really unique marketing campaign and something that got a ton of viral buzz because of what they did. That's all I have. I know I went through that really quick. There's a lot of content there, and I'm going to be around for questions after. But follow me on Twitter. I'm at Boston Mike on Twitter. My email address is right there. It's mike.lewis or mlewis@awarenessnetworks.com. If I don't get to any of your questions today, I'd be happy to answer them after. Thanks.